And then after the conclusion of my apprenticeship was awarded my initial licensure. And then when the state of California began licensing funeral directors as individuals in 1997, I got a funeral director's license. And then over time, through the work that I've done with the crematories, I became a licensed crematory manager, licensed cemetery manager, and I'm licensed in other states to practice as well. And some of those conversations are going to be woven into some of the information that I present this evening. What is behind me, as our Vice President Chris Paul had posited earlier, is an actual human remains incineration unit. This is an American crematory system that we had installed at Cypress College back in 2021. It is fully functional and operational. It's used only to incinerate the biology department specimens that are used on campus. I am a faculty member at Cypress College. Our mortuary science program is one of only two in the entire state, one of 58 across the country, and we train future funeral service practitioners. On the preparation side, we train them for licensure as embalmers. On the arrangement side, we train them for professional practice as funeral directors. And then in the emerging methods of disposition, we are now training them, of course, in cremation operation, alkaline hydrolysis, and natural organic reduction. There are a host of different disposition options across the United States that are migrating here to California, some that have already been fully functional for decades in other jurisdictions. When alkaline hydrolysis came to California about 5 years ago, we thought of it as an innovation and a new practice, but the Mayo Clinic had been doing it since the early 2000s. UCLA has done alkaline hydrolysis for their anatomical specimens for over 15 years. And now we have the option in our state to choose alkaline hydrolysis for ourselves. Some use the term flameless cremation or water cremation or biocremation, but alkaline hydrolysis is a very similar process in terms of the disposition of the remains will be with an urn at the conclusion, much like in a cremation. With flame incineration, at the conclusion of the process, there are bone fragments that need to be processed in order to facilitate inurnment. At the conclusion of alkaline hydrolysis, there are bone fragments that need to be processed to facilitate inurnment. And then the urn can be disposed of in a host of different options. They can be buried in a cemetery. The remains can be scattered at sea. A portion can be retained in the residence, and then the remainder placed in a burial space like a niche in a columbarium, or potentially interred in a grave space, while a portion of them are either retained as a keepsake or memento, retained at home as a portion of the keepsake, or they can be scattered at sea as well. So we have options that many times people don't think of, and my job is to prepare the next generation of practitioner to encourage the conversations that take place on a pre-need basis, before the death even occurs, on an at-need basis after the death has occurred, and then beyond that, so that everyone understands there isn't just a dichotomy of decision making. It's not burial or cremation. It's cremation and what's next. It's alkaline hydrolysis and then what? It's natural organic reduction and then what? So I would hope that in the information that I provide today, it might constitute some questions that you may have, because California is very early in the adoption of natural organic reduction. We don't have the processes or the policies in place yet. However, January 1st, 2027 is the deadline date for the Cemetery and Funeral Bureau to get those regulations locked in. And we are then ready to operate in what many people will give the moniker human composting. So the term is natural organic reduction, or NOR, and the reduced remains are needing to be disposed of, whether that means that they're going to be integrated into the soil at a residence, or if they're going to be possibly interred in a conservancy or a natural habitat, a forest, if you will. There are a lot of options, much like with cremated remains and hydrolyzed remains. Now, with our reduced remains, we need to think about where would we like to place them. And a portion of them can be retained at home in an urn, while the majority of those composted remains are distributed elsewhere. We have the opportunity to bring all of those remains home and then placed in a garden or a rose bed or a planter box of some sort. There is a tremendous amount of them, though. It's not as easy as just the urn for the cremated remains or the hydrolyzed remains. There is a much larger amount of reduced remains to be disposed of. But the things that haven't changed in California, there is no requirement that a funeral establishment ever be contracted with. The home death care movement is still alive and well and thriving in California for those families that opt to make all of the arrangements themselves, including filing of the death certificate and obtaining the burial or disposition permit. Those can all be done without the assistance of a funeral establishment. For those families that would like to retain their loved one in their residence for a longer period of time, of course, we do have our ancillary colleagues that will help with those arrangements, whether or not we're talking about preparation of the remains with chemical preservation or ice refrigeration. There are individuals that are out and about in our communities that regularly provide those services to the assistance of families. For many of our families, though, in today's environment, they have decided on incineration, whether it happens to be flame incineration or cremation, or if it happens to be alkaline hydrolysis. They have opted for that reduction of the remains so that they might be able to containerize the reduced remains or the hydrolyzed remains or the cremated remains and then take them with them as they may migrate out of the state after the death has occurred, or be able to separate the remains into portions that can be distributed to several family members. These are all options within contemplation. So as you're thinking about your arrangements for a family member or a friend, there are a lot of options available. And I would hope that we, as a Funeral Consumers Alliance Los Angeles, can provide more information in that regard. As Chris mentioned, if you call FCALA, you'll get his voice or his voicemail. And if there's a question that he doesn't have the ready answer to, but it might fall within the area of expertise that I have, I normally have an opportunity to respond to it. So some of the common questions that I'm asked, I think I may have already answered in my initial information. No, you do not have to use a funeral establishment in the state of California. Yes, cremation is still a very viable option. However, we do now have alkaline hydrolysis and natural organic reduction. We do not have a requirement that the remains be containerized in any specific format. So families can select their own container, and families have wide latitude in how they're going to ultimately dispose of those cremated, reduced, or hydrolyzed remains that include spreading over or integrating into the soil property that is owned or controlled by the person who has the right of disposition, or at least has authority from the person who owns or controls that property. Something I will say, you're not allowed to scatter cremated remains at Disneyland. That's still a big no-no. So please don't try that. They frown upon it. It tends to shut down Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean. I will say, though, that the ability to do many things with the cremated remains has only expanded. People have painted them into portraits of their loved ones. Some individuals have taken a fraction of them and launched them out into space. You may have heard that there was a company locally called Celebrate Life that would take the cremated remains and package them into fireworks and then do a choreographed musical selection to a fireworks display off of the coast of Newport, San Francisco, and San Diego. There have been some individuals that have taken a portion of cremated remains, mixed it with tattoo ink, and then tattooed their loved ones' cremated remains into a design on themselves. There have been the same type of conversations with hydrolyzed remains because they are very, very similar to cremated remains. They tend to be a brighter white, and there's about as much, not more, not less, for a standard size individual, but they tend to be more flake like, or not as dense as cremated remains. We still have a lot to understand about natural organic reduction, and the California Department of Public Health is investigating that currently, trying to determine what the appropriate protocols will be for us to operate. For those who are not familiar with natural organic reduction, or what some people call human composting, those remains are going to have to be containerized for 30 to 70 days as they break down and the enzymes essentially digest the elements of the human remains that will allow us to then integrate it into the soil. There's a lot of use of organic materials, flowers, alfalfa, and other types of materials that yields about 12 cubic yards of reduced remains. For those states that are already operating reduction facilities like Washington and Colorado and Oregon and some of the other states, they have nature preserves that are ready to receive the amount of reduced remains that is available, minus a small portion that will go into an urn that many families ask to have returned to them. So here in California, January 1st, 2027, that's the date that we'll now know what human reduction will look like in our state. If it looks anything like the rollout of alkaline hydrolysis, it has been more than 5 years with alkaline hydrolysis in our state. We only have 4 approved providers of that technology, and many client families have still opted for flame incineration once they've done any sort of an investigation as to the costs and the procedure involved in alkaline hydrolysis. They're not as accessible. We've got an area down in San Diego that's being served by alkaline hydrolysis facility. We have up in the Santa Barbara area, and then further Northern California. So we don't have as many alkaline hydrolysis facilities as we have flame incinerators. And because we don't have a lot of facilities, the costs are still being borne by the families that are using those facilities. Without a lot of facilities, without a lot of families, the cost is still pretty expensive when you compare it to just basic flame incineration. So without cost as a concern, then it becomes more of a demographic issue. How to get our loved ones to San Diego, to Santa Barbara, up to the Central Valley area, so that they might be placed into an alkaline hydrolysis chamber, and then of course retrieval of those hydrolyzed remains for final disposition. As we think about where things are going in California, you may have heard the term green, green cemetery, green burial, natural. Many cemeteries have adopted green burial practices, limiting interments to those types of receptacles that will easily break down. So we're not seeing a lot of concrete outer burial containers or metal caskets, but more along the lines of a dome shelter for a casket that's primarily composed of biodegradable materials. They'll do that in areas of the cemetery that have been deemed to be ecologically preserved or ecologically friendly. We're not going to see the placement of markers and monuments and memorials that would not be in alignment with the natural terrain. So we see more rocks than we do actual like bronze markers. For those cemeteries that are adopting the green philosophy, many of them are members of what's known as the Green Burial Council. They uphold a code of ethics in alignment with the philosophy of being less impactful on the environment. So they're restricting the type of materials that the deceased can be buried in, the type of preparations that the deceased may have encountered prior to disposition. And then, of course, they really regulate what is interred and the methods by which the interments are marked within the green sections of the cemetery or the entire cemetery itself, if it happens to be something like Forever Fernwood up in the Bay Area. I know I've said an awful lot, and some of the terms I may have used might not be as familiar as other terms. I'd like to stop for a moment just to take a breath and to take a drink and see if there's any questions.
I have a question.
Please ask away, Eleanor.
Okay, the alkaline burials, if you want to be buried at sea, will that disturb the environment or the fish or anything like that, and the chemicals?
Ooh, that's such a good question. So you use the term burial at sea, which is different from scattering at sea. At the
Well,
conclusion of,
scattering.
yeah, at the conclusion of an alkaline hydrolysis process, those remains, those hydrolyzed remains, much like cremated remains, are still predominantly calcium, nitrogen, and some metals. They're essential metals that you would find normally in nature. It's not an overabundance of any of the particular elements that are found primarily in nature. It does not, in large amounts, the statement might make a difference, but for the single individual being scattered at sea, it does not have a significant ecological impact. What makes up those hydrolyzed remains, much like what makes up the cremated remains, are readily within the same parameters of what's already in the ocean at large. But it's a good question to ask, and one that is being contemplated on the natural organic reduction side with the number of individuals that are using chemotherapy agents and radiation therapies prior to their death. There is no longitudinal research that shows what the parameters of potential contaminants may be after the NOR process is complete. Once there's additional information that's gathered in that regard, we'll have a better understanding of what the environmental impact may be of natural organic reduction of remains that have died after prolonged periods of chemotherapy, or what remains might have within them from a host of pharmaceuticals that they may have been exposed to in the last months or years of life. We don't have that information yet because this entire process has not been widely subscribed across the United States. But in time, I do believe that we would have more information, especially in regards to the large number of pharmaceuticals that so many of us will have in our lives on a day-to-day basis prior to our demise. One
Okay,
thing that I will mention though is that with flame incineration, we do have to remove many of those medical implants. On alkaline hydrolysis, they are not removed prior to the process. They are going to be removed on the processing of the hydrolyzed remains. So one of the things that we're responsible for doing after cremation, after natural organic reduction, after alkaline hydrolysis is removing anything that is not human remains from the remains. So for example, in the cremation unit that's shown behind me, I regularly remove screws and staples. I will remove any sort of non-human remains. So if there happens to be a button on a blouse that has a backing of metal that didn't incinerate, I'm going to be removing that. Artificial hips and joints are definitely removed. If someone were to have been cremated with implants, dental implants, or if there were other items, an artificial heart valve that was made of metal, those items would also be removed from the hydrolyzed or cremated remains prior to placement inside the urn. So if we're thinking about alkaline hydrolysis and then the subsequent scattering at sea, the only thing that we would be scattering is the actual hydrolyzed remains. It would not include anything that is not human remains.
okay. A follow-up is I plan to have one of those biodegradable type pillows for the ashes. And so, how is that impact? How does that impact it?
So, with any of our biodegradable receptacles, including scattering urns, those are designed so as soon as they're exposed to the environment, they begin to degrade. That allows for the scattering to occur. And as long as we are not holding these particular containers for a prolonged period of time, it doesn't have an impact outside of once they've been placed in the environment, whether we're talking about out in the ocean or in the open air, and then they begin to degrade. We do not want that level of degradation to take place, let's say, in our living room or in the back seat of our car. So if you
Oh,
were to select a biodegradable urn or a container for the hydrolyzed remains, we want to make sure that we keep it in a nice dry place for as long as it needs to be stored. We normally will encase it in plastic just to make sure that it doesn't begin to degrade before we're ready to take it out for scattering.
Hi,
Joanna,
this is Arlene
Joanna,
Bernholtz. I have a question for you,
Go,
Joanna.
go ahead, Arlene.
I actually signed up for Earth Funeral, and what I liked about it is they take you step by step what they're doing, the bones and everything they make into powder. They give the family four different urns. They will pick you up anywhere in the world. And I've researched them, and I wanted to ask you before I actually signed up, but they were giving me a special deal, so I signed up. What do you know about them?
It's interesting. Other than you mentioning them to me, I wasn't very familiar with them at all. I did go out to their website. I got some idea about the services that they were providing. And had it not been for you bringing it to my attention, I could honestly say I was not familiar with them. But then when I went out to their website, it is again natural organic reduction, and they have the processes illuminated just like you had mentioned. I wasn't familiar with the four different containers, so that one's a new one for me. But when I went out to the Earth Funeral website, I found that they still have the same vessels that many NOR facilities are using. They're still using a process that ranges from 30 to 70 days. And then at the completion of the process, they are doing processing to make sure that the remains are indistinguishable, that you wouldn't be able to notice or identify any bone fragments. But the majority of what their outcome is, they are placing in a nature conservancy, and what is returned to the family essentially would be the size of what we would have for cremated remains anyway. It seems like it is the perfect example of what NOR could be in California and how it can expand across the United States, because the return home and the facilities up in Washington State, they have been doing it for quite some time. Others are now getting in on it, and like you found, Arlene, this Earth Funeral is right in alignment with the policies and the processes that we're already quite familiar with on the NOR front. So I'm glad that you found one and that you were able to take advantage of an introductory special that
Well,
helped get your wish.
I love nature, and that seemed like such a natural thing to do. They call it composting. And I had one family member that was a little bit blurry about it. And then he realized, you know what? We can only control so much. We have to trust who we're dealing with. And after I signed up, it's funny because I started seeing commercials from, oh, I can't think of her name right now. This one lady, oh, darn it, I can't think of her name, but she's doing that also. And she's not advertising it, she's being interviewed. And she wants to be buried on her ranch with her horses, dead horses, and everything. And where I
Oh,
originally was going to be buried, they could not bury me in a timely manner, which follows my religion.
yeah.
And even if it wasn't snowing where our plot is, they still wait 2 weeks before they hold any funerals. And I think that's what finally pushed me over the edge. I'm going to do this. And I did check the Better Business Bureau. They had one complaint, I think, in 5 or 6 years, had to do with advertising. And everything I've read and researched about them seemed legitimate. They also send the soil to a state park in California, and everything I was tracking seemed to fall into place. I kept meaning to call you and see if you'd heard about them, but I find out now you didn't.
Actually,
And,
Jolena, this is one of the companies that I had lined up for later this year. Is kind of getting the I guess a little surprises out. I haven't made contact with them yet. I wanted to see how this our meeting went tonight, but somebody had asked. The name of the company is Earth Funeral,
Right.
and obviously we're not endorsing them, but they are an option. And I actually am going to try to make an attempt to stop by their offices
Ooh.
to get
They
more
were
information.
they
But
were very,
hopefully,
very helpful.
well,
They answered a
hopefully that
million
they'll.
questions for me.
Well, the hope is that they'll provide an educational meeting for us online, and we'll make you all aware of that if that happens.
Um,
Again, it's just an option. It's not an endorsement by any means,
right. I
but
do want to
it's a
say
great
one more thing.
follow-up to
They
Jolena.
they do have a film. They do a video that they play on Zoom. So they do have something like that that you could probably show at a meeting. And then they answer questions. And then they also, if you want to set up an appointment to talk to somebody, a coordinator, they do that also.
Yeah,
That would
I
be
sat through a meeting. I
okay.
sat through a presentation. Somebody also asked, excuse me, somebody asked earlier, Paula, was your question answered about the artificial joints?
Yeah, she did say that
She,
they take the joints out before flame cremation, I think, and if they remain after the hydrolysis, they're taken out because obviously what's left after the hydrolysis is going to go in the ground and the joints don't. I did have a question though about what about plastic, the artificial lenses in our eyeballs from cataract surgery? Do they take those out, or does the plastic just melt in the flame or in the hydrolysis?
Yes,
So
in the
that,
flame, no in the hydrolysis. With flame incineration, we won't remove artificial hips or joints before the flame incineration, but we will remove those artificial hips and joints after the flame incineration.
okay.
They're very clearly non-cremated remains as we're removing them from the chamber. With the alkaline hydrolysis, though, it is fascinating to see how all of the remains will move down. They will migrate down to the base of the chamber. You can easily extract out almost pristine implants. And these implants could be implants that are of the metal variety, plastic variety, and otherwise. The temperature in alkaline hydrolysis only is about 300 degrees maximum, so most of our plastics will remain intact. We still have to remove from the hydrolyzed remains anything that is not human remains. So yes, any plastics that you might have as implanted medical devices, those will be removed from the hydrolyzed remains.
Is
And
that
Jolene,
for the
I had a
cataract
question from
surgery?
somebody.
Do they
Sorry.
remove the lenses for the cataract surgery?
What's interesting with implanted medical devices, even pacemakers that are removed prior to cremation, they do have the opportunity to be recycled. There's an implant recycling company that will refurbish them and then send them either to veterinary clinics to be used in animals, or some of them are recycled and returned over to other countries that are using that technology, but we do not tend to recycle or reuse our implanted medical devices in the United States for another person. Other countries don't have those same parameters.
Okay. Oh, excuse me. One more thing I wanted to add about Earth Funeral. Last week, I got these little business cards in the mail, and I thought, oh, they think I'm going to hand them out and share it with friends and everything. No, it was please give to your family members. So if something happens to you, you call that number and they will make arrangements to pick you up wherever you are in the world. And if for some reason, like I almost had this happen to me, you drown in the Atlantic Ocean, they will refund your money back to your family because they cannot, if they cannot replace the body.
Oh my. Wow.
I did a lot of research. So now
I
I have
have
this
a
little
follow-up
card now
question.
that says Earth, and somebody thought I joined a gardening club.
Jolena, somebody, Joyce asked, what happens to the joints, etc., that are removed?
Oh, good question. We're required to dispose of them with the rest of our biomedical waste. We are not allowed to retain them. However, we can ask permission to recycle. Like I said, there's an implant recycler, and they will take all of those implanted devices off our hands if we end up with the permission from the individual who authorized the cremation or the alkaline hydrolysis. But if we don't have their permission, then they're simply disposed of with the rest of our biomedical waste.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
Oh, okay. On the human composting, is Earth Funeral the only company you know of? I have contacted them, but I wondered if there are any others.
There are several that I have other friends who've used, but they only worked within their state. And that's somebody in Oregon. I'm amazed at all the people who know about human composting. I was really surprised.
Well, I've researched this for years, yeah, and I was always interested in that. I've contacted several of the, on the green funerals to have contacted.
And I think next year they'll be in California in 2027. They have a place in Las Vegas and Washington.
Yeah, beginning in 2027, we're going to see potentially a lot more entrance to that particular sector of the market. So stay tuned. They will be the first of many.
No, I found two, and there's one in San Diego and there's one in Joshua Tree.
The ones that are operating right now with natural organic reduction actually are in partnership with Washington State facilities. The process cannot take place in the state of California.
Right.
So they retrieve the remains from where the person has died. Then they ship them to a processing facility, normally in Washington State. That tends to be our du jour destination right now. And then making the arrangements for the return of a portion of the reduced remains and the disposition of the remainder.
Okay, no, I'm sorry, I meant the green burial, though.
Oh, yes. With green burial, there's a number of green cemeteries. Joshua Tree is just one. There are many of them that are either recognized as GBC certified, or they have a component part or a section of their cemetery. I was just at Hillside Memorial Park earlier today, and Hillside does have a designated section for green interment. So many cemeteries have carved out a section of the cemetery to be able to meet the client's needs when the family has requested an ecologically friendly interment.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
We're still trying to stump Jolena. Who's next?
We have a series of questions. Unfortunately, really none of them are for Jolena.
Oh, good. Let's stump Chris. Can we stump Chris?
So to take a break.
How
How would I find out if my wife is a member? I think she is, but there's no list of members on your website for me to double check.
I can do that right now, sir.
Okay, her name would be Sandra, or she goes by Sandy, Sandi, Snyder, Snyder, and we live in San Dimas, California.
I like this game. Let's stump Chris.
Or you can send us an email and then we will have your email address, which we are trying to get for everybody.
I can give it to you right now.
Actually, I have it, and you are members.
Okay. Do we have membership numbers? Is there a membership card? Anything like that?
I can make a note right now, and somebody will get that out as soon as possible.
Okay. Hopefully, there's no rush in any of that. Issue I have is that when we signed up, my mom signed she and myself up in probably 1970, something like that. And she was with Westwood Mortuary, which is, I don't believe, a member anymore. And
No,
then my wife's father died, and I want to say it was like Gilbert Mortuary. They had two or three. One was in East LA, there's another in Ontario. In any event, they're no longer on your list.
no,
And
they're
the card
not.
that I have says we're supposed to go there upon our death, but they're no longer on your list. What does that mean?
What that means is they've made a decision not to offer special pricing for the
Okay,
membership. And
so we need to basically to pick another mortuary.
if you wanted to, certainly you're not obligated to use any participating mortuary.
Oh,
But
I understand that. Uh, among other things, I'm retired Army, so I'm going to be buried at Riverside National Cemetery.
mhm.
And I'm going to be cremated in the ground. And so I'm just looking for a nice, inexpensive cremation facility. I see a couple down here. One is 995. Uh, but one of the things that Sandy is upset about is that apparently there was a crematorium that everybody used up in, I want to say, up in Antelope Valley somewhere that was busy stacking bodies and sending just any remains to anybody. So she was concerned that she never got her father's actual remains back. And so that's a concern of hers. And so I guess the question is there any sort of a guarantee that one of the mortuaries we select is actually going to return the actual person's
May I
ashes?
answer? This is Arlene Bernholtz. I went through
Sure.
this because where I live, this crematorium was putting multiple bodies in it. So I found a cemetery where we were able to sit there while they cremated it. And this sounds very strange, but my son and grandson were able to wheel my husband into the flame and light the buttons. So we knew 100%. And the one I went to is in Chatsworth, California, but I think there are some other ones in California also.
Jolena, would you say that that's quote unquote is common practice?
Oh gosh, yes. In today's environment, if there is a crematory that will not let you witness the cremation process, that would be a huge red flag to choose a different operation. This crematory that's behind me, what's in front of me is the witness cremation room, so that a client family could watch the entire process from start to finish, should they be so inclined. Most of the time, they would only want to witness potentially the placement within the chamber initially and potentially the removal of the cremated remains at the conclusion of the process. But it is very common in today's environment for witnessing of the process, because there are some people that are very concerned in ensuring that it's one person, it is their loved one, that the operation is clean and sanitary. Those are all component parts of a typical witness cremation to ensure that there is no question. It is your loved one. It is a single person that's being placed in there, and it's your loved one's cremated remains that are coming back to you.
Okay.
Pay no attention to
And
that one Columbo episode.
Oh,
yeah, there's been some horror stories, not really recently, but within recent memory.
Right.
Okay, so basically, because I've got cards that in my wallet says if I'm killed, this is where my remains are to go. So I need to throw those cards away, and because I have no idea what their prices are now.
Mhm.
Okay, let's say I go ahead and I select a mortuary, say Forest Lawn in Covina Hills, which is half mile from my house.
Hmm.
Do I get something from them that I put in my wallet, or just make a note, or what?
I can't speak for Forest Lawn, but I imagine they will give you some type of direction as to something to carry, so that when the first responders get involved, they know who to contact. The membership card that you're going to receive from our volunteers is going
Sure.
to be such a card. In case of emergency, call this number. So you or John Smith, doesn't survive an auto accident, that person listed on that card is going to be contacted to let them know what happened, and then the hope is that that person that's listed is also familiar with what your plans are, and they'll know who to contact.
Sure. It'd be my life. Hey, that's
Sure.
basically my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Any other questions? No,
Chris,
thanks.
I
I've
have a
been a
question.
member a few
Chris,
decades. Go ahead. Go ahead, Eleanor.
I got a letter telling about this meeting on Zoom. Because I got that mail, does that mean that my membership is still active?
Yes. You wouldn't have got that letter if you were not an active member.
Okay, because I've been going on and off to those meetings for at least 40 years.
Eleanor, can you call me can you call me tomorrow? Because I want to double check all your information, and certainly your physical mailing address is good, but I want to make sure your email is current, and then I want to see that you get some. If ever if anyone who doesn't have a card that I was describing to Mr. Snyder, send an email to support at
Well,
F.
okay, I'll tell you what, I can't, I have a vision problem, so I'm not able to do that. Can I just give you my email address or my phone
Well,
number?
if you can stay on the line out till after the meeting, that'd be great, Eleanor. Can you do that?
Okay, yes, I can.
Thank
Thank
you. Thank you. Okay, we're still trying to stump Jolena. Come on.
I have a
Dale has
question.
her hand up. She's muted, but she has her hand up. Dale?
Okay. Are we muted?
Dale, go ahead.
I
She has her
just
hand
wanted
up.
to comment that on the viewing of watching your loved one get cremated, that's typically a price point on the list. So there's if they charge you extra for that extra thrill.
Thanks,
Okay.
Dale, for mentioning that, because it's something that I did not say. The witnessing of the process requires that we cool down the unit so that we might be able to have consumers in the area. That inhibits us from our normal operating schedule. And because it's an additional service, there tends to be an additional charge for it.
Yeah, general price lists show that they're required to. Okay, Jolena, any other questions for Jolena? Because if not, I got a poll that I can throw up. You know what? Go ahead to the next chapter, Jolena.
I have a question for Jolena.
Oh, wait a minute. Babs has a question here. So there's the
Right.
cost of the procedure. Go ahead, Babs.
I'd like to know her opinion on the Neptune Society.
Oh, well, I've got opinions on everyone. The Neptune Society as a philosophy, I will tell you, they were cutting edge. Neptune, Trident, Omega, People's Memorial Association in Washington State clearly endorsed them back in the 70s and 80s because it is from a foundational perspective, it's a very seamless process. You make one phone call, no matter where you're at, there is a Neptune or Neptune affiliated provider that will become involved. The cremation will take place and the scattering of the cremated remains will be documented. I will tell you, though, that there have been a number of pieces of litigation against these types of societies because they do not necessarily have the same level of forward-facing customer service. There isn't necessarily a structure you could walk into every day of the week, every week of the month, every month of the year, where you might be able to receive service. Most of it's done remotely. Post-pandemic, that's not such an issue as it was pre-pandemic, where people were not accustomed to doing things online, over the phone, and remotely. So I don't think that the same scrutiny of their customer service policies would prevail today the way that it had historically. However, I will tell you that that the California Secretary of State did pursue the Neptune Society up in the Bay Area for some of their pre-need funding contract structures. They had some issues with the way that they were being operationalized. But as a company, I will tell you, like any other cremation provider, they are a low cost provider that is very essential for the work that they do. But if you're looking for like the witness cremation, or you're looking for the opportunity to spend some time with a loved one, we're not going to see that in our direct cremation providers. They just don't have the physical space, or they don't have the contracts or the logistics to make it happen seamlessly. But there is nothing to be said other than they serve the purpose for which they were intended, whether we're talking Telephase, Omega, Neptune, or any of the cremation societies. They are providers of that service, and they are incredibly transferable because they're a network of providers. You could die in another state, possibly even in another foreign country, and there's going to be one of their affiliates there that can help you. And that is a big concern for people that are regularly traveling between destinations, or might move out of the area from which they initially may have made the contract, and now they're living in a totally different state. So I won't say anything other than what's already in the press. And if you wanted to do a Google search, Neptune Society lawsuit, you'll hear about the California Secretary of State prevailing against the Neptune Society regarding their pre-need trusts.
Okay,
Jolita,
thank you.
Babs had a question for you.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, here's my question. I know that, can you hear me?
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay, so I understand there's the procedure, whatever it is you do, and then there's the disposal. So I'm assuming the disposal part is where you find, like whether you want to do it at Forest Lawn, whether you want to do it at someplace else, whatever. Is there a way of giving a ball? Because I know the society, you can find out figures for things like, regular cremation, etc. A ballpark figure about what it would cost to do either the alkaline thing or the green thing. I mean, and I wanted to know also, did you say that there's a larger amount of actual debris or whatever with a green thing than there is with the other ways? Okay.
When you say the green thing, I think you might be referring to natural organic reduction.
Yeah.
Okay. So for NOR, you're going to end up with about 12 cubic yards, or the back of a pickup truck full of human compost. Not all of that is human remains. However, it's all been mixed together throughout the process. So you're going to end up with an awful lot of compost at the end of an NOR process. At the end of alkaline hydrolysis or cremation, you're going to end up with about 200 cubic inches. 4 by 5 by 10 is the typical size of an urn. Think of a shoebox. That's about the typical size, not construction boots, but a typical shoebox. That's the normal amount of cremated or hydrolyzed remains that will come out. So when you decide that you're going to scatter them at sea, we're not talking about a lot of mass here. But with reduced remains, the portion that might return to you would be the size of an urn, but the remainder would have to be placed on conservation ground, in a forest, a nature preserve, or that type. Unless, of course, you wanted to bring all 12 cubic yards home because you're getting ready to, plant a garden or flowers or something like that.
Earth gives you that option.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the
And
way,
what about cost, Jolena?
Okay. So it depends wildly. On the alkaline hydrolysis, I've seen prices that are right about 3,000, going all the way up to 7,000, depending on where the person was when they died, how far they are away from the hydrolysis facility, whether or not there are coroner fees involved. There's a lot of ifs in that pricing structure. But if you go online to White Rose Aquamation, that's the one down in San Diego, you'll see those price points listed on their GPL.
Okay.
Again, not an endorsement, just letting you know I did a Google search, alkaline hydrolysis, and this was one of the facilities. When it comes to natural organic reduction, they have been coming in right about $7,000. And that's to include the transportation up to Washington State and the return from Washington State of the reduced remains. So there's a little more cost involved there because we don't have the reduction facilities here in California yet. We don't have the ability to license them. We certainly don't have the ability to operate them. That will change in January of 2027 once the California Department of Public Health has their regulations in place and we begin to see some applicants to the field. But if it's anything like alkaline hydrolysis, for the longest time, there was only a single licensee in California. So even though it was wide open and we could end up with a lot of people that are operating hydrolysis facilities for human disposition, there was only one because the remainder of those that had applied had found it incredibly onerous, if not downright difficult, to get a wastewater permit from their local water district.
Oh,
So it
wow.
wasn't that the Cemetery and Funeral Bureau couldn't license them, they couldn't get the infrastructure approved to be able to put in the unit, the actual alkaline hydrolysis unit.
But I have one more question. It
Earth
just came to me.
Funeral is
Someone
about
asked me,
$2,000 less than what you just quoted, and they'll pick you up anywhere in the world.
Could you
Okay.
that?
Go ahead, Babs.
oh, I was just wondering, I was having a discussion with someone. Can a person, if they want to, be buried in a pine box, or is that like not permitted? You have to be buried in a concrete thing with a hole in it, but you put the pine box. Jolena, can you explain that?
Okay, so most of our green cemeteries, someone had mentioned out in Joshua Tree, they will not allow any sort of an outer receptacle other than the container that is directly in contact with the remains. So the concept of that plain pine box, that's exactly what they're interring into the soil, directly into the soil.
Thank you. Good.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
Okay,
quick
Jolena.
question for Ms. Grande. Can you hear me okay?
Go right ahead.
Okay. Well, two levels actually. One is on a practical basis with flame incineration. Is it really practical or to prevent commingling or some level of commingling of the ashes?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what 7054.7 of the Health and Safety Code says. There will be incidental commingling that occurs during the cremation process because it is absolutely impossible to remove all of the cremated remains from the previous cremation from the cracks and uneven spaces of the floor of the incineration unit. But it is considered incidental, which means that you wouldn't be able to identify it one individual to another because it's so insignificant. But you are correct when you say, is it practical to assume that there will not be any commingling? What I will say is there is incidental commingling that will occur because of the structure of the unit that is used. There are cracks and uneven spaces. There are things that will get caught into those cracks that could end up being dislodged during the removal process for the second or third incineration that takes place in that unit on that day. So we do the best that we possibly can. We use vacuum cleaners, we use brushes, we use hose, we use rakes, we use as much as we possibly can to remove as completely as possible the humans remains that are in there, but there is that possibility. And when anyone signs an authority to cremate in California, they're apprised of that incidental commingling because that 7054.7 statement of the Health and Safety Code has to be integrated into any authority to cremate.
Jolene, how much?
In other words, attempting to have the quote first one of the day, if you will, or specify that would really make no significant difference.
I will tell you, from my point of view, it makes an incredibly significant difference because at the end of the day, I am going to do such a great job vacuuming on a cool chamber that I'm probably going to be able to get so much more out of those cracks that I might not be able to do if it's a incineration in the middle of the day because the unit's too hot and I can't leave the vacuum cleaner on the floor of the chamber for any period of time. It just overheats. But I can tell you at the end of the day, you are going to find that it's practically spotless, which means if you're the beginning of the next day, you got in on that very, very clean floor from the night before. But if you really want in on a clean chamber, it's going to be the day after they re-brick it. We're required to re-brick our chambers every 1,000 to 1,500 incinerations, which means the entire interior of the unit comes out, new brick goes in. Being that first case after re-bricking, guaranteed there was nobody in on that brick before that set of remains.
That's cheaper than buying your
What kind
own.
of time frame would that represent? Is that like every 2 to 3 months, every 2 to 3 weeks?
It depends on the operation. The unit that I do, our unit does about 5 a day. So that's going to take you less than a year before it needs to be re-bricked. On some of our other facilities, they're only doing 1 a day. So they might be re-bricking their chamber every 3 to 4 years. It all depends on how large of an operation the crematory happens to be.
One last question. I have a lot of those types of questions. Are you available for consultations?
I certainly am. In fact, my booking agent is Chris. He takes care of my scheduling. He's my handler. He makes sure that all of your questions are routed to me and then answered appropriately. I'll also make sure to give all of my credentials so you can reach out to me directly.
That would be appreciated.
All right.
It's my pleasure.
All right. Where'd you like to go next, Jolena?
I am going to say I have taken almost an hour of our time today, and I don't think that many people want to hear me when there is business of FCALA that needs to be conducted. So if there aren't any further questions or no questions that are burning, I'm going to drop my contact information into the chat. Again, Chris has it available so he can forward it out to anyone who's interested, but I don't want to take more of our annual meeting time than I was allocated.
Janet?
Sorry, I had to turn my microphone on. I had 2 comments. One, when you said that they are using stones instead of bronze, these days that is an excellent option because people are stealing the bronze. So go with the natural things. The other thing is I was just enchanted by the idea of getting 4 containers. It takes me right back to the Egyptians with their canopic jars with the 4 jars.
Well, that's interesting.
Classic. You can be classic. Okay, onward.
Mike, I got a poll I want to share with everybody. Does everybody see the poll in front of them?
Yes. Yes.
I'm just curious.
You want us to fill that out, or are you just showing
Yeah,
us?
that's a great poll, Chris. I want to see the outcome of that. Great questions.
Mike, you can only vote once.
Only one?
Check around.
You can only vote once, Mike.
Oh.
Check around and see if Elon's sending any more Teslas out, and reserve a spot.
Unless something changes, Jolena, the no's have it for 1, the no's have it for 2, but the yeses came about. It flipped. The yeses have it for 3.
That's good information.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, 70% no, 73% no for 1. 82% no for the fireworks, and 55% no for green. So now it's flipping. It's back to no. 45 to
Didn't ask if
55.
didn't ask if anybody wanted their ashes compressed into a diamond, which is also a very
Oh.
cool option.
Right, right. You
True.
can
Oh
wear
my
it very
goodness.
nicely.
That's true. Thank you for
Except the new
voting,
husband
everyone.
doesn't like that.
Okay. Mike,
Yeah.
what do you want to
If
do
there are
next?
no other questions, we still have one important thing to do, and that is the re-election of some of our officers. Will you remind me, Chris, who are the 5 people that we need to be re-elected?
Let me bring that back. Let me share a screen with you. I went over it today. Can everybody see that?
Ah, yep,
There.
we can see it.
It's hard
Okay.
to read
Now we
it. It's
can,
very
yeah.
small.
It's very small.
These are our board members,
Oh,
active
where is
board.
Jean? Is she here tonight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't see her.
What?
She was here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jean, are
Okay.
you there? I don't see her.
I see her image, but I see her mic is muted.
Ah.
Mike is muted.
Oh, no.
Yeah, her
Yeah, we're
audio is
technically
turned off. Oh
the
no,
people-
she's talking.
Okay, so for our benefit, is it we are going to re-elect Jean Okuye, Janet Cornwell, Alison Boyle, and Julina Grande. Is that right?
Well, according to this,
the people that should have been elected on November 1st, if we'd had a meeting then, are the ones we're voting on. The 11/1/2025 ones.
11. Oh, that's
I
Jean.
had to use my time machine and
No.
figure that out. Because this is technically the 2025 annual meeting.
there.
Did Dale send us a list of who it was? I thought that was
The mistake that I had made before is I had Jolena starting the same time as Dale, but we found in notes and in emails we found that Jolena came aboard in 2022. So she has 3 terms, so it's 1, 2, 3. So I guess you could argue at the end of November.
Well, as long as we can put together a slate of board members that the members present can re-elect, we'll be fine. And I think there were like 5 names.
Right. So it's Chris, Janet, and Mike, and Jolena and Dale.
Okay.
And everybody's getting a 2-year term except Jolena, who's getting a 1-year term because she should have been on the last ballot. And that's okay. That's fine.
Okay. So repeat those names.
Chris, Janet, Mike, Jolena, Dale.
That's based on this spreadsheet that we're looking at, Dale?
With Jolena corrected.
Okay.
Okay.
So if we put that up as a poll and ask people if they or we move and second that slate be accepted for another term, and then put up a poll or ask people to raise their hands or whatever. The poll thing worked very well. Do you think you could pop that one together, Chris?
Okay.
To have the election as a poll?
Okay, let me do this.
Maybe raising hands would be easier.
Seems to be
Actually, it
great.
would. That'd be quicker.
Yeah.
All right, Mike, put it up to the
So
vote.
there is a motion
We
before
need to
you
have a formal, we need to have a proposal and a motion and a second.
Or
Go
is
ahead
there a
and propose
motion?
it, Janet.
I'm on the slate. I shouldn't do
Okay,
that.
and the
Okay.
motion to re-elect these 5 people, board members.
Oh, Allison, you make the motion and Jolena, let's see.
You know what? I think we're forgetting something. I think we need to ask if anybody else here would like to be on the board.
I would
That's
like to ask that. I second that motion.
Okay.
But it's not a motion. It's just
Babs, you want to be on the board of? No, look at that response.
What's on these times?
Kent, are you in?
No.
Joyce,
No, thank you. Not this year.
Eleanor,
Sorry.
Gil,
Oh.
Gil. Come on, Gil, I know you're there.
Oh, he's hiding around the
Pamela.
No, thank you.
Brenda.
Okay,
Mary, you want to be on the board of directors?
I have to pass for now. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so
that was easy.
All right, in that case, I'll go ahead and make the motion that the 5 existing board members who are up for election, that we approve them as a slate to continue whatever term is appropriate. And
okay.
now, if you agree with that motion, then we need a second.
Any second?
I'll second
Any second?
I will second it.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded that these 5 people be elected as a slate to whatever term they are serving. Those who are in favor, please raise your hand.
All right.
Those who,
I think it's unanimous.
Do you have the count? Janet is the secretary, and she needs to make a note of the count.
Janet, did you count? Hands up again for Janet.
Hands up for electing these board members.
4.
Pamela, I think Joyce is saying Joyce is saying thank you. Sure, she's got her hand up.
Okay, let us ask if anybody objects, and then we can just say it's unanimous.
That's right.
If you don't. Okay.
Samsung SM-S9, yes or no?
Well, she moved it so that if they object, then they have to make that statement.
Okay. I don't hear any objections, Janet.
So if nobody objects, then
it's
silence
unanimous.
is consent.
It's unanimous.
And
it's unanimous.
Unanimously accepted.
The chair declares it a unanimous vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yay. Thank you, Mike.
And I would like to request the board members to remain so that we can determine when we are going to meet as a board. But thank you, everybody, for your presence.
Does this mean that we need to adjourn because we need a motion to adjourn, which I will make?
I don't think since we still have board business, I don't think we adjourn until we're totally done.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a different meeting, but
no,
okay.
The annual meeting is not the same as a board meeting.
Joyce, go ahead.
Yeah. Per Mike's agenda,
are different.
I think we're only going to decide on the next board meeting date. So that's so not having a separate board meeting, like where we approve minutes and stuff like that. So we would keep this going until we finish the minor business of selecting the meeting.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we can.
are
Joyce,
there any
what was
other, are there any other issues that we need to take care of?
Joyce? Did you have a question? No? Okay. Well, thanks so much for coming and joining us for this annual meeting. And I knew you had a speaker that would bring it home. That's for sure.
Chris,
And
don't forget,
we look
Chris,
forward to having speakers. Hopefully, they agree to provide educational presentations to give us a deep dive as to their procedures and things like that. We don't want a sales presentation, but an information type of a meeting. And when we get those set, we will send those invitations out via email. And we look forward to you attending if at all possible.
Chris, don't leave.
All right.
Let's give a hand to Jolina for that wonderful.
Yay!
Thanks, Jolina.
Thank you.
Is there any motion to adjourn as an annual meeting?
One thing, Chris, you made the recording available to people last year. Are you going to do the same this year if people want to go over it again?
Yes.
It's sure full of instructions.
There was one gap. Well, there was a break, so I'm going to try to do a splice, and so there might be an interesting transition from recording the first part of the recording and the rest of the recording. But I'm gonna give it a shot.
Okay, so people should get in touch with you if they want to hear it again.
Well, I'm going to put it on the web page, and on send me an email, or check out the web page by Saturday morning.
Wonderful.
Send me an email if you want a copy, or check the website on Saturday to see if there's a link. One of the two. And Eleanor, if you stay on the line, we'll go ahead and confirm your email address, okay?
All right, thank you.
Sure.
And recommend this to any of your friends who are interested.
Is there anyone else who we do not have their email address?
Well, you have my old one, but I'll send you the new one.
Please do that.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Okay.
It's been swell. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, Eleanor, I'm ready to write. What's your email address?
Okay, it's like my name, right? O-N-Z.
You know what?
Like
Janet, can you make a note of that? I'm having a little.
I don't know if she has vision problems. She can't put it in the chat. Maybe would that be useful?
Eleanor, can you add something to the chat?
No.
I think she's on the phone.
I have an issue with my vision.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
okay,
if you want to give me, Chris, if you want to give me your phone number, I can just call you.
Perfect.
Or else I can give you, or else I can give you my phone number.
Well, the phone number for FCALA is 213 222 6440.
Give me the last four.
6440.
Okay. All right. I have to tell you, I'm going to be 98 in 3 months, and so I'm not always as quick on this thing as other people.
You're plenty quick. What are you talking about? Come on, Eleanor.
Well, I'm in great shape, except I have the macular degeneration, and so it's hard for me to see.
Understood.
Well, you keep going on all cylinders there. You sound wonderful.
Well,
thank you for joining us.
I work at it.
Thanks,
Eleanor. Thanks, Pamela.
It was a very good meeting, and thank you for letting me know about it.
Terrific.
Glad to. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.